Death's head warning signs in Turkish and Arabic hung from it at intervals, showing that the fence marked the Turco-Syrian border. The smuggler's track ended at the fence, but an even fainter, narrower path continued on the other side, zigzagging away down the far side of the ridge. The 4x4 ground to a halt beside the fence. There was silence, broken only by the metallic ticking of the engine as it began to cool. McGovern looked at his companions. Although he had been travelling with them for hours, he was still not sure whether they were acting as his guides or his guards. They stared back at him in silence. "What now?" he said, at last, in Arabic. "This is where you get out," one said. "Crawl under the wire and walk due south for a mile where, inshallah, another of our vehicles will be waiting in a wadi to collect you." McGovern paused a moment, in case they had anything to add, but they remained silent. One of the men next to him opened the door, got out and made a gesture with his hand, as if wafting away an irritating fly. McGovern shrugged his shoulders and followed him. The man climbed back into the vehicle, the engine roared into life and the 4x4 slewed around, spraying sand over him as the wheels slipped and skidded, then sped back the way it had come. He watched it go, then took a careful look around. Satisfied that he was alone in the sweep of desert landscape, he drank some water from his flask and urinated against a rock, then moved towards the fence. From the fresh tyre tracks running parallel to the wire, Turkish army vehicles patrolled this area frequently, and he had no desire to be stopped and interrogated. When he reached the wire, he lay flat in the dust and wormed under the lowest strand at the point where the smuggler's track intersected with the fence. The compacted earth, scored by the marks left by the elbows and feet of countless others as they had wriggled under the fence, showed that he was far from the first to cross the border there. He picked himself up on the far side, brushed down his clothes, and took another careful look around him. Then he set off, moving away from the fence and heading due south. The sun was high in the sky, and the heat was pitiless. The mountains and the desert were shimmering in the heat haze, but there was no other movement, apart from a pair of vultures circling on the thermals high above. The sun-bleached animal bones he saw at intervals as he picked his way among the rocks suggested that they never had to wait too long in this unforgiving landscape for their next meal. He walked for perhaps 20 minutes, picking his way along a narrow, dry riverbed cutting through the steep, scree slope that marked the Syrian side of the border. Further down, he could see the riverbed broaden as it disappeared into the mouth of a wadi, and, as he drew nearer, the glint of sunlight reflecting from the white metal roof of a Toyota Land Cruiser showed him that his escort for the next stage of his journey was waiting for him. As he approached, 4 more men, who had been sheltering from the sun in the shade beneath an overhang of a rock, stepped into the open and stared at him impassively. Once more all were dressed in black Arab robes. 2 wore keffiyehs, but the others wore hoods with crude holes cut for their mouths and eyes. There were few words of greeting. One merely grunted and pointed to the back seat of the Land Cruiser, where McGovern again found himself wedged between 2 burly, silent Arabs as the Toyota bounced and buffeted its way down the rough, rock-strewn bed of the wadi. The men on either side of him smelled as if neither they nor their robes had seen soap and water for many weeks, but his years serving in the British Army had inured McGovern to far worse. They drove for more than an hour, coming to a halt at a checkpoint flying the Islamic State flag. The black standard was claimed to date back to the time of Muhammad in the 7th century. It was inscribed with the Shahada, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah," above the seal of Muhammad, both etched in white Arabic script against the black background of the flag. The ISIS men manning the checkpoint were armed to the teeth with what McGovern's well-trained eye immediately recognized as brand-new American M16 assault rifles. An